So today I'm going to show you how I've made this super quick and super easy little card wallet, so it can fit 1, 2 cards and yeah, Oyster cards, and then there's also a central section that you can put folding money in. Obviously this is totally useless if you then get coins as change, but you know, I can't think of everything. So let's get started. You're going to need your pattern. This is a free pattern and I'll have the link in the description bar down below. A 7 inches by 10 inches piece of fabric or leather or vinyl that doesn't fray. That's very important, mustn't fray. Some paper scissors, some fabric scissors, a Sharpie, that's for finishing off the edges of the fabric, wonder clips, matching thread. You're also going to need a sewing machine. Okay, so this is a super easy pattern, and for the little bag that I'm going to be using for the wedding, it will either fit my entire NCW and nothing else, or it's going to fit this, my camera and my phone and a lippy. So I'm going to make myself one of these. Now, you want to make sure that when you print it out, you print it out at 100%, not scaled. It will usually come up around 94% on the printer originally, and you need to change that to 100%. And once you've done that, you need to check that your inch test square measures an actual inch. So the first thing that we're going to do is cut out our 2 pattern pieces. Once you've cut your pattern pieces out, you then want to put them onto your fabric, and I personally am using a biro to trace around them so that I have my 2 pattern pieces here. Now, when you trace around them with a biro, what you want to do when you're cutting them out is cut so that you can't see the biro line anymore, and that way you will be cutting on the actual cutting line of the pattern. So I'm going to cut these pieces out and then we can get to some sewing. Okay, so after the notions and supplies, it then tells you that the seam allowance is 1/4 inch for the entire pattern. It also mentions that a Teflon foot, while not necessary, is helpful when sewing vinyl and leather. I don't actually have a Teflon foot, but I do have a leather foot or a roller foot. So this has, you know, rollers on it, which is very useful for sewing with leathers or fabrics that tend to be quite sticky. However, I'm also going to engage my dual feed and use basically my inbuilt walking foot to sew mine, because I find it slightly easier than trying to work out where 1/2 inch is on this foot. At least that's what the plan is for now. I may change my mind in a second and I will let you know if I do. It also has details about the when sewing with leather, use appropriate thread and leather needle. Stitching should be done with a longer stitch, at least 3mm. I'm actually going to turn mine up to 3mm as well. It can be helpful to slowly hand crank around curves to keep a consistent seam allowance, which is also very useful. The other thing you could do if you wanted to would be to draw on your seam allowance. So we've already cut ours out, and I have pinned the main wallet piece, which is the larger of the 2. I have pinned the main wallet piece together, and the next stage is to start sewing at 1/2 inch down from the top edge. So from this edge, 1/2 inch down, and I don't know. And there you can see I've marked it with some chalk, 1/2 inch down, so that's going to be where I start my stitching from. You could also use that chalk to mark your stitching line around the curves if you feel like you might not be able to do that by yourself. And it says, sew a line of stitching all the way around to the other edge, stopping 1/2 inch from the other top edge. You may wish to use the marking on the pattern pieces to mark your pieces. This little bit here. So I'm going to do step number 1. Well, technically step number 3, but you know what I mean. Okay, so I've sewn my first line of stitching. As you can see, I've stopped 1/2 inch from the top and sewn all the way around. Now, I'm actually going to take my Sharpie, and the edges of this fabric that I'm using are white, so I'm going to use my Sharpie to make these grey. And I mean, grey is probably the closest I have to something that's going to work with this particular colour, but you obviously want to use whichever colour would work best for the fabric that you're using. And I'm doing this now because it might be a little bit too difficult later on, and rather than use the tip of the pen, I am using the side of the nib, because I don't want to draw on the actual front of the fabric. I just want to colour in that edge. You can see quite a lot of the white of the fabric, so I might just go in and colour it in a bit more. But that's the general idea, is to get rid of this kind of bright white core that is very, very obvious. And this is my first time making this, so I have no idea if this would be easy to do at the next stage, which is why I've decided to do it now. Here we go. So you can still see quite a lot of that white core, but I might, as I say, go back in and just colour that in a second. But yes, this fabric's definitely not going to fray, so you know, it is fit for purpose. But that's just an extra step and preference of mine, and I use this quite a lot. I didn't have to use it when I was using this particular fabric because the core of this fabric was already black, so I didn't need to go around and do that. But my silver one that I am in the process of making, I am going to need to colour in the edges because the core of that fabric is white. Okay, so we're now on to step number 4, which is take your wallet pocket piece, which is this smaller one, fold it in half, wrong sides together, then slip your wallet main piece inside of your wallet pocket piece. Be sure to align the side edges and bottom curves of all pieces. Clip into place. Okay, so I have everything clipped into place, and now the next step is number 5. Starting at the top edge of your wallet, sew down and around until you reach the other top edge of your wallet using a longer stitch length. Depending on your materials, you may choose to backstitch to secure and or tie off each end. Whichever you choose, don't forget to secure your stitching. So we're going to sew right from the top all the way around to the other side, and again you go slowly around the corners and it will be fairly simple. I'm actually going to just colour in this edge of the fabric before I sew, because once it's all sewn down I might not be able to get in there and colour in that edge of the fabric without touching this part, and I don't want any Sharpie marks to be on the actual outer of the fabric. I just want to be colouring in the core, so I'm going to do that now before I sew. And the other side. I chose to backstitch on mine. I'm just going to trim a little bit off. So yeah, the next thing you want to do is, if there's any unevenness around this particular area, you just want to give that a trim. And then for me, I'm going to take my Sharpie and just kind of darken those white core bits because I don't want them to be on show. So I'm going to do that the entire way around, and then it's finished. All done. Now all you need to do is put some stuff in it. I'm really pleased with how this has come out, especially because I'm planning on taking and using this bag whilst I'm on holiday, and this bag fits an entire necessary clutch wallet but nothing else. Or I can put my little card wallet in the slip pocket, can also fit my phone and my vlogging camera, which is very important. So I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye!